Rowena had always known her destiny was intertwined with darkness. As the chosen bride for an ancient demon, she was taken from her village on the night of her 18th birthday. The villagers, both terrified and reverent, watched in silence as she was led away, bound by an unholy contract forged centuries ago. Her heart pounded with fear and defiance as she was taken to the demon's lair, a forbidding castle perched on the edge of a dark forest. The castle loomed ominously against the stormy sky, its twisted spires and shadowy battlements casting eerie shadows. Rowena could feel the malevolent presence of the demon even before she saw him. The air grew colder, and a sense of dread settled over her like a heavy shroud. Inside the castle, the walls were lined with grotesque statues and ancient tapestries depicting scenes of horror and torment. Every step she took echoed through the desolate halls, amplifying her sense of isolation and impending doom. When Rowena finally stood before the demon, her breath caught in her throat. He was both terrifying and mesmerizing, a towering figure with eyes that glowed like embers and a voice that resonated with dark power. His form was shrouded in shadow, with only glimpses of his monstrous features visible in the flickering torchlight. "Welcome, my bride," he intoned, his voice sending shivers down her spine. "Our union will bring forth a new era of darkness." As the days turned into weeks, Rowena found herself battling not only the demon's influence, but also the transformation taking place within her. She could feel the darkness creeping into her soul, changing her in ways she could not control. Her reflection in the mirror revealed eyes that glowed faintly in the dark, and her once soft features became sharper and more otherworldly. Yet amidst the horror, a spark of her humanity remained, fueling her determination to resist the demon's control. One night, as the moon cast a pale light through the castle windows, Rowena discovered an ancient text hidden in the library. The book, bound in black leather and inscribed with runes, spoke of a ritual that could break the demon's hold over her. With newfound hope, she began to study the text, her mind racing with the possibility of freedom. But she knew that to perform the ritual, she would need to gather rare and dangerous ingredients, each one guarded by the demon's dark minions. Determined to reclaim her humanity, Rowena ventured into the forbidden depths of the castle to gather the ingredients for the ritual. The first item she needed was a rare herb that only grew in the demon's garden, a place of twisted beauty and hidden dangers. The garden was a labyrinth of dark flora, with vines that seemed to move of their own accord and flowers that emitted an eerie, phosphorescent glow. As she navigated through the garden, she could feel unseen eyes watching her every move. The second ingredient was a vial of blood from a creature known as the Shadow Beast, a monstrous entity that prowled the catacombs beneath the castle. Armed with only a dagger and her wits, Rowena descended into the dark, echoing chambers. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and the walls were covered in cryptic symbols that seemed to pulse with a sinister energy. She moved cautiously, aware that the slightest sound could alert the beast to her presence. When she finally encountered the Shadow Beast, it was more terrifying than she had imagined. A massive, hulking creature with eyes that glowed like molten lava and skin that seemed to absorb the darkness around it. The battle was fierce, with Rowena using every ounce of her strength and cunning to overcome the beast. She managed to draw its blood, but not without sustaining injuries that left her weak and trembling. The third and final ingredient was a feather from the Nightwing, a mythical bird that roosted in the highest tower of the castle. The climb was arduous, with each step feeling like a test of her resolve. The tower was old and crumbling, with narrow, winding stairs that seemed to stretch on forever. By the time she reached the top, Rowena was exhausted, but the sight of the Nightwing filled her with a sense of awe and determination. The bird, with its iridescent black feathers and piercing eyes, seemed to recognize her purpose and willingly offered a single feather. With the ingredients in hand, Rowena prepared for the ritual. She knew that the demon would sense her defiance and try to stop her, but she was ready to face whatever came her way. She set up the ritual in a secluded chamber, drawing a circle of protection and chanting the ancient incantations from the book. As the ritual progressed, she could feel the demon's presence growing stronger, a dark force pressing against the boundaries of her will. But she remained steadfast, pouring all her hope and strength into breaking the curse. As Rowena began the ritual, the air in the chamber grew thick with an oppressive energy. She chanted the ancient incantations, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her heart. The circle of protection glowed faintly, a barrier between her and the malevolent forces that sought to disrupt her efforts. The ingredients, placed meticulously around the circle, pulsed with an eerie light, resonating with the dark magic she invoked. The demon's presence became palpable as the ritual progressed. The shadows in the room seemed to stretch and twist, forming grotesque shapes that leered at Rowena. She could hear his voice, a deep, resonant growl, echoing in her mind, taunting her with promises of power and threats of destruction. Her resolve wavered for a moment, but she clenched her fists and continued the incantations, refusing to let the demon break her spirit. Suddenly, the chamber was filled with a blinding light. Rowena's chants reached a crescendo, and the circle of protection flared brightly, pushing back the encroaching darkness. The demon let out a roar of rage, his form becoming more defined as he struggled against the barrier. His eyes, burning with malevolent fire, locked onto Rowena, and she could feel his anger and desperation. But she also sensed his fear, a realization that she was close to breaking his hold over her. In a final, desperate attempt to stop her, the demon summoned his minions. Dark, shadowy figures emerged from the walls, their eyes glowing with a sinister light. They lunged at Rowena, but the circle of protection held strong, repelling their attacks. Rowena, her energy waning, pushed through the final incantation, her voice ringing out with a strength she didn't know she possessed. The air crackled with raw power as the ritual neared its climax. With a final shout, Rowena completed the ritual. The chamber shook violently, and the demon let out a deafening scream as the circle of protection exploded in a burst of light. The shadows dissipated, and the oppressive energy lifted, leaving the room eerily quiet. Rowena collapsed to the ground, exhausted but victorious. She had broken the demon's hold, but she knew that this was only the beginning of her journey to reclaim her humanity and defeat the ancient evil once and for all. The castle seemed to breathe a sigh of relief after the ritual's completion. The oppressive darkness that had once permeated every corner began to lift, replaced by an eerie calm. Rowena, though exhausted, felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew the battle was far from over, but the first victory against the demon had ignited a spark of hope within her. She needed to find allies who could help her further weaken the demon's power and ultimately defeat him. Venturing out of the castle, Rowena sought out the fabled witches of the Blackwood Forest. These witches were known for their deep knowledge of ancient magic and their ability to bend nature to their will. The journey through the forest was perilous, with unseen creatures lurking in the shadows and the very trees seeming to whisper secrets of old. Despite the dangers, Rowena pressed on, driven by the belief that the witches held the key to her victory. The witches' coven was hidden deep within the forest, protected by powerful enchantments. When Rowena finally found them, she was met with suspicion and caution. The witches, cloaked in shadows and mystery, tested her resolve and her knowledge of the dark arts. Only after she had proven her determination and courage did they agree to aid her. They revealed that to defeat the demon, Rowena would need to harness the power of an ancient artifact known as the Heart of Shadows. The Heart of Shadows was a relic of immense power, said to be hidden in the ruins of an old cathedral at the edge of the world. The journey to the cathedral was fraught with danger, with treacherous landscapes and hostile creatures guarding the way. Rowena traveled tirelessly, her determination unwavering despite the challenges. The ruins were a haunting sight, with crumbling walls and overgrown vegetation, whispering of a time long forgotten. Inside the cathedral, Rowena found the Heart of Shadows, a dark gem pulsating with raw power. As she reached out to take it, the ground trembled, and the demon's voice echoed through the halls. "You cannot escape me, Rowena. Your soul belongs to me." Clutching the gem tightly, Rowena felt a surge of energy course through her veins. She knew that with the Heart of Shadows, she had the power to challenge the demon on equal footing. But first, she needed to master its power and learn how to use it without succumbing to its darkness. With the Heart of Shadows in her possession, Rowena felt a new surge of power and responsibility. She returned to the witches of Blackwood Forest to learn how to wield the artifact's immense energy. The witches taught her ancient spells and rituals, guiding her through the intricate process of mastering the heart's dark magic. Each lesson was a test of her will and her ability to balance the artifact's power without losing herself to its corrupting influence. As Rowena grew stronger, she began to attract the attention of other beings who sensed her newfound power. Some sought to aid her in her quest, while others aimed to exploit or destroy her. Among her new allies was a mysterious warrior who had once been a guardian of the Heart of Shadows. He offered his strength and knowledge, becoming a vital companion in her fight against the demon. The final confrontation with the demon loomed ever closer. Rowena and her allies prepared for the inevitable battle, knowing that the fate of not only Rowena, but also the world rested on their shoulders. The demon, aware of her growing power, unleashed his full fury, summoning dark forces to weaken her resolve and break her spirit. Nightmares plagued her sleep, and sinister whispers filled her waking hours, but Rowena remained steadfast. The battle took place on the night of a full moon, under a sky thick with storm clouds. Rowena, armed with the Heart of Shadows and surrounded by her allies, faced the demon in a climactic showdown. Lightning cracked across the sky as the forces of light and dark clashed. The ground shook with the intensity of their struggle, and the air was charged with raw energy. Rowena called upon every ounce of her training, wielding the heart's power with precision and determination. In a final, desperate move, the demon lunged at Rowena, aiming to snatch the heart from her grasp, but she was ready. With a powerful incantation, she unleashed the full force of the artifact's magic, enveloping the demon in a blinding light. The demon's roar of fury and pain echoed through the night as his form disintegrated, leaving behind a whisper of darkness. Exhausted but victorious, Rowena stood tall, the Heart of Shadows glowing softly in her hand. She had defeated the ancient evil and reclaimed her humanity, ready to face whatever future lay ahead.